tonight's episode, Triangle of Terror.
And good evening, afternoon. Probably, oh no, it's afternoon for everybody. So if anybody's watching, right now we have no viewers, so I don't know if the audio is even working. What we're going to do is open up the video on YouTube over here. Right now we have no viewers, so it sounds like it's working though. So we'll go down to the description of the video, and there's a link to the ATF comment period for the redefinition of firearms. ATF occasionally decides to change the way that they enforce what they are tasked by Congress to be responsible for. And when they do that, there's a process, and part of that process I don't think it has to, but it can entail a comment period where the agency puts out for a certain amount of time a time frame for accepting comments from the people that they're going to be enforcing or applying the laws to. So we're 7 days into a 90-day comment period. This is not the first comment period, certainly not the first in recent history. And the way that it works is people submit comments, and those comments get reviewed and then posted onto the website. As of today, May 28th, looks like there are 33,359 comments that have been submitted to the comment form here, and it looks like 9,540 of those at this point have been accepted and posted on the website. And that's what we're going to do today. We've spent some time in past videos checking out the comments. We've spent yesterday for 2.5 hours reading the actual document, which is actually the link that I put in the comments is the document, and it's pretty long. It took 2.5 hours to read it without commentary. And we're going to go back to reading comments today. Barbecue requested that I add commentary to the comments, so I'm not going to hold back today. Try to alternate reading these with my additional commentary or not, either toggled on and off for the complete video, so that someone who just wants an audio reading of the comments can choose that. And then somebody who wants to hear my point of view can hear that as well. And I do those separately so you don't, they're exclusive of each other. All right, so we're going to dig in and read some of these today. I'd like to thank, first off, all of those who've given all to let us be where we are today. We're about to head into a weekend that is Memorial Day. That's a day where we thank those who gave all. Just as a clarification, there's people that serve today, and they have Armed Forces Day. There's those of us that served in the past, but we're still alive. We have Veterans Day for that. And then this weekend will be Memorial Day for those who've given all that a human can give for their brothers, their family, their state, and their country. So with that, let's dig in and randomly pick a bunch of comments. So what I like to do is go to the browse section, hit sort by newest to oldest. Of the 9,540 comments that are approved, they don't approve them in order, in sequential order. So we can see from the end of the identification tag here that these are in fact separate comments. It looks like they're something like 8,400 is the number on this one. So what I like to do is, once I figured out I've sorted it right, I'll go through and right click and open in a new tab on the first like 10 or 12 of these, so that we get a sequential selection. And again, not that these are being posted sequentially, but this is just like the last group of them, but all of the last, the most recent group. And I think the idea here is that if we are going to see some negative ones, if the negative ones are a true representative sample set, people that are against individual rights and the ownership of property that represents that, then we would see those when I open up a bunch like this. Now I'm going to see whoever's texting me like a spaz over here. Some dude who's desperate for attention. Okay. He's trying to act like he's got good news that I can't talk about, but y'all, those of you who know what I'm talking about and who I just got a text from, know what the deal is, because he's over there texting, or he's posting about it, and I was giving him grief about it. All right, so then that's a bunch of them in a series, right? So if there are some negative ones, people that hate rights, well, we should see them in here. Actually, I'll just grab the rest of this page since we're right here. It looks like this is the first 25. I might have missed one or two in there. And now I'm going to jump to page 3, because page 3 is pretty cool. And I'm just going to randomly right-click, scroll through, right-click, and open a new tab on some of these. And this way we get a random sample from, ideally, ones that have been submitted recently here. I'm going to jump to page 4, even though 4 is an even number and it's not that good. 4 does, 45 has 4 in it. That's good. 40 caliber has 4 in it. That's good. 44 Magnum has 4 in it, so that's good. So we'll use the number 4. So I've grabbed a bunch randomly from there. Now we'll jump to page 7, just because why not? And then grab a couple randomly from page 7. Typically, page 7 is one of the better pages, but not always. There can sometimes be bad things on page 7. All right, now we just have a random sample of a bunch of these things. And now we're going to go back to that first one and start to read them with commentary today. So I'll probably pay more attention to the comments. That means you people. So thanks to James for showing up first. Then Kingpin showed up. This dude's pretty awesome. Goes around paying attention to what people are doing online, giving them encouragement, moral support. More importantly, real human being out there. Good dude. Midnight run a show on Sunday. Also legitimate. Pretty sure he's alive, but never actually witnessed him as a human being. This dude's pretty cool. I don't know why he's going by that name, but normally people call him Erstwhile. And then that's from Kojo, also another good dude, but these 3 people have never been verified as human. All right, we'll keep going. So the first one is 8419. Thousands of law-abiding citizens manufacture their own homemade firearms for personal use and as a hobby. Nothing in this, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm sick of having to squint. So I'm making it bigger. I just did it. You're going to have to deal with it. Thousands of law-abiding citizens manufacture their homemade firearms for personal use and as a hobby. Nothing in this proposed rule will make it safer for citizens. It only adds more red tape and infringements on the Second Amendment. RE ATF 2021 R-05. The ATF must immediately withdraw their proposed rules to criminalize so-called ghost guns. To start, the very phrase ghost guns is a politically charged pejorative used to scare Americans and justify the infringement on our right to craft a homemade firearm. A right ancillary, whatever, to the Second Amendment. In fact, some of the items being classified as ghost guns are best described as non-firearms because they do not meet any federal definition and are not functioning weapons. Other items referred to as ghost guns are completed 80% receiver kits, which can be described as fully functioning homemade firearms rather than the manipulative phrase ghost guns. When the state of California and Giffords Law Center sued to force the ATF to enact gun control by alleging threats posed by ghost guns, it was the ATF that filed a motion to dismiss the case. I messed that up, so I'm going to read it again. When the state of California and Giffords Law Center sued to force ATF to enact gun control by alleging threats posed by ghost guns, it was the ATF that filed a motion to dismiss the case. Here's what the ATF said in January 2021. While any specific crime is a tragedy, 8 such crimes out of the 1.1 million violent crimes committed in the relevant 6-year period is a far cry from an overwhelming wave that could cause a state injury sufficient to concur standing, nor can California plausibly plead that these crimes would not have occurred with traditional serialized firearms. The ATF must live by its own words and recognize the constitutional right of the United States citizen to craft their own firearms to keep themselves safe. No proposed gun control law, including the proposed regulation of so-called ghost guns, will stop criminals from being able to obtain and use firearms in the commission of crimes. That's dead on. It's really good. It's kind of long, and I don't like it when they use words that I don't even know, like ancillary. Like, nobody uses that word. And then this other word, infringement. No. There was some other word here that they were trying to be fancy with their words. But I imagine the ATF knows words, so I might as well use it. This dude was texting me. No one's ever proved it. You'd never been open when a human was there to eat, so never been proven. This dude's proven. Human. This dude bought me French fries, so human. All right, so next up is number 8421. Shall not be infringed. This message really doesn't need to be that long. The founders of our country, who owned warships and personal artillery, wrote a really good one. ATF 2021 R-05. I am writing to express my opposition to the ATF's proposed rule regarding homemade firearms. This rule places burdens on licensed firearms dealers and manufacturers. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do this. I set this all up earlier, too. Oh, wait. So if anybody wants to throw us a super chat, we appreciate it. Oh, wait, no, goodness. All right, now we'll go back over here. I am writing to express my opposition to the ATF's proposed rule regarding homemade firearms. This rule places burdens on licensed firearms dealers and manufacturers in the form of increased record keeping, including a new requirement to keep completed 4473s indefinitely instead of for 20 years. Furthermore, the new proposed rule would require dealers and gunsmiths to record every firearm that they work on in their bound book, even those which they are not keeping overnight. Poses an unneeded burden on gunsmiths, who are overwhelmingly small businesses and do not have extra staff to handle regulatory tasks. It also appears that a new record-keeping requirement is being forced on the dealers and gunsmiths to record firearms into their bound book, which are brought in for repair but not kept overnight. This new rule serves only to aid ATF in possibly establishing a gun registry when a dealer and gunsmith goes out of business and submits their records to the ATF. But even more so, this provides ATF with yet another tool to claim that a violation has occurred and gives them the ability to threaten these small business owners with fines and jail time. I urge this agency to withdraw this regulation. This one's another brilliant one. I'm pretty sure it has to say, I don't know about the RE part, but it does have to say this is in regards to ATF 2021 R-05. So definitely include that in your comments. There's probably some other stipulations, but after going into mind-numbing jello yesterday, thanks for the $5. Hopefully that's the first $5 in the tip jar. You know what I'm not doing is running around acting like it's Free Patch Friday, trying to get people to remember that I'm doing stuff. So I do appreciate the money because I use money to pay my bills and eat. So appreciate that. So let's see. This is an awesome one. So aside from the fact that they put in the regular pieces that are necessary, I urge the agency to withdraw this regulation. That's a call to action that's concise, whatever. So that's awesome. Hey, wait, if I put this up there, does it leave the other stuff? No. I'll just leave this up here for a while, though. Thanks, Clover. Clover's kicking ass, by the way, and he's not allowing me to tell you what he's doing, but he did tell me what he's doing, and he's kicking butt. All right, so this rule places burdens on licensed firearms dealers in the form of increased record keeping. When I read this thing yesterday, I did remember there was a section there that's critical, and probably most people aren't paying attention to it because they don't give a shit about the burden that gun shops have to deal with. And gun shops, for the most part, don't talk about the burden because they're not whiny bitches, right? So the rule places a burden on the on the gun shops, but also on the new quote unquote gunsmith dealers that they're creating a category for, and their BS conceded garbage legislation suggests that it doesn't cost anything for gun shops to keep records, and that if it's such a burden, just make them electronic. So F you, government. There's a reason why you're not allowed to keep lists of us, right? And that has to do with we don't want you having lists of us, and you can't just put undue burden on us with the threat of infringement, and then say, oh, if you don't want this undue burden, then just go ahead and do this much easier way of keeping track of each other. You keep track of each other for us. F all of you. You don't have any right to ask any of this. So I think this one's a great angle. The gun shop being burdened with the issue of having to keep the records is a big deal. The fact that they're flipping it in this thing that's redefining a firearm, they're also flipping it where gun shops right now have to keep your 4473s for 20 years or however long they want, but at least 20 years, unless they go out of business, in which case they turn them over, the paper copies, to the ATF. The ATF wants that to be electronic. They want to have a database that they can just search through with a quick Microsoft application to find us. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. There's laws against that. When we built computers, which, we invented in this country, we immediately looked over at the government and said, no, you can't use these computers against us. And that's what they're trying to supersede. They're trying to ignore the rules from the 1970s when computers were actually powerful enough to start tracking us. And the people that were building them said, you know what, let's go make the government off bounds, that it can't do this. And of course, they're trying to ignore that, suggests that they're feeble and they can't except to have us track each other electronically. So that's a big portion of it. Keeping the 4473s forever is a massive burden, in my opinion. I think it's horrible. All the shall not be infringed people, go learn a new thing to complain about, because that's a massive infringement on not just the manufacturer or the shop owners, but on us. And then let's talk about putting the firearms that come in for like well, actually, it doesn't matter what you're bringing it in for. If this thing passes and they require you to put a serial number on your upper receiver, guess what? You're going to have to take it in and pay for a serial number to be put on your upper receiver that falls within spec. And they're going to require the gunsmiths that do that, even if they can turn that around and do it within 5 minutes and give it right back to you. It never leaves your possession. It's going to be required that they put it into their bound book, their paper inventory of guns that they've ever touched, which is required to keep their license. And now if you go into a gun shop and say, hey, what do you think of this? And they go, I don't care. And you leave with it, that's your business, right? Now in the future, if this goes through, you bring it, it's not quite like that, but if you bring it into the gun shop and say, hey, can you take a look at this for a minute? And they have to officially hold your gun, even if it's for a moment, they're putting it into their book. And the fact that your gun entered their shop will be in their records for the rest of time, since they can't throw their books away according to this new rule. So the fact that some unwitting people are suggesting this might lead to a registry, or people that haven't read this, because this is basically, it is a registry. It's just a registry on a bunch of 4473s instead of a bound registry book. But obviously that's one step away, especially when they want the 4473s to be electronic. If you want to fear stuff, fear. Don't fear the garbage that the big time losers are telling you to fear, because they're telling you to fear stuff that our grandparents feared. There's actual stuff to fear in this one. There's lots of reasons why those things are horrible. This comment is good, though. The only thing I would do with this comment is break it into two pieces. One that talks about the undue burden on the gun shops, and one that talks about the fact that they're creating this registry with the requirement that we serialize guns that aren't serialized, which means guns that they never even knew existed are now on the registry. And then that just leans hard into their bullshit position that universal background checks are like not just necessary, but that they should exist. Universal background checks, we should have an entire national level organization pushing against 4473s, and at the same time, parallel pushing against universal background checks, make the antis fight to keep the 4473s so they don't have time to pursue universal background checks. And if you think that's wrong, fight me. Tell me where a national level organization doesn't have enough money to do both of those. Next, comment number 8420. The Second Amendment is not subject to government oversight. It's merely recognition of God-given unalienable rights. The weapons law-abiding citizens amass is the low-hanging fruit of an oppressive government. Is the low-hanging fruit an oppressive federal government chooses to hang its proverbial hat on. Joe Biden should truly study history and understand what liberty means. Government's primary function is to preserve liberty, not stifle it. RE ATF 2021 R-05. I am writing to express my opposition to the ATF's proposed rule regarding homemade firearms. This rule places burdens on licensed firearms dealers and manufacturers in the form of increased record keeping, including a new requirement to keep completed 4473s indefinitely instead of for 20 years. Furthermore, this new proposed rule would require dealers, sounds a lot like the last one. Furthermore, this new law, it also appears, but even more so. Are these two different ones? Yeah, these are two different ones, 8420 and 8421. Okay, all they changed is the first paragraph. So what do you think? You know, we're just witness two that are boilerplate minus the first couple of sentences are different. All right, so the next, I didn't even bother to read the rest of that. It doesn't, it exists, but it's almost as lazy as you could get. You might as well just put this in here with this part, I think. This ruined the rest of your comment and made me ignore it, and I'm on your side. Next up, 8418. Not that anyone in a current position of power cares, but this definition is too broad and easily manipulated for political gains instead of the stated intended purpose. This will create far more problems than it solves, if it actually solves any at all. All right, look, I'm going to be critical, so if you can't handle it, leave. Here's how this should be read. Not that anyone in any current position of power cares, but this definition is too broad and easily manipulated for political gains instead of the stated intended purpose. This will create far more problems than it solves, if it actually solves any at all. So tell them what they're supposed to do. You're not getting whooped by them. You are their boss. So this one didn't even tell them what to do. It just complains about what they're doing. So I don't like this comment. Sorry, guy or gal. I don't know. Next up is 8443. RE ATF 2021 R-05. Since the founding of the Republic, Americans have... Wait, did I put on here that there's going to be comments? Let's make sure. Founding of the Republic, okay. Americans have... They know there's commentary. Since the founding of the Republic, Americans have made firearms at home. In the 21st century, steel and wood have given way to aluminum and plastic. This new rule by the ATF attempts to regulate the making of firearms by private persons who are not FFL holders and to regulate those guns which are made within a private residence for personal use. This is boilerplate. Can somebody tell us whose this is? Because I don't know. This seems like this whole thing is boilerplate, but I'll read it because I haven't read it yet today, at least. But I know I've read this one before. The gun can, and if I've only read these every once in a while, imagine the people that are doing this for real, or the computers that logarithms are set to see these patterns. They can determine these in a minute. So that's why there's only 9,500 of the 33,000 that have gone through, more than likely. So there's no point in copying and pasting. That's basically masturbating. Use your fingers and write something with your brain. Since the founding of the Republic, Americans have made firearms at home. 21st, I started a lot. So the Gun Control Act's central premise has been based on Congress' authority to regulate the interstate commerce. A private party making a firearm for their own use has never been subject to regulation. This proposed rule is a radical and unneeded departure from this historical precedent. To underscore this point, page 36 of the proposed rule even says, clarifying this issue is needed to deter the increased sale and distribution of unlicensed and unregulated, partially complete or unassembled frames or receivers, often sold with parts kits that can be readily completed or assembled into a functional state. The definitions proposed in this rule are unlawful because Congress has not taken any action to regulate home-built firearms, firearms braces, or the records that must be kept by licensed dealers. This proposal reeks of agency overreach. That's definitely, I've read that before. Even though this proposed rule lists several firearms by name that had not been invented when most of the current laws and rules were enacted, there is nothing to prevent an inventor from inventing and selling a new type of firearm, frame, or even a slide after the proposed rules take effect, which would make at least part of these new rules obsolete. It is the job of Congress to write laws and federal agencies to enforce them. This proposed rule appears as illegitimate lawmaking because it states that it is in some way in response to the manner in which the courts have ruled on the AR-15 type firearm receiver. If a change is needed in law, then it is properly the job of Congress to change the law. It is not the job of a regulatory agency. For these reasons, I am respectfully requesting that you do not act these rules. So it's I would clap because it's well written, but it's somebody else's well written and they copied and pasted it. It's a regulatory and enforcement agency. I just was doing a thing for the project yesterday, the 2A history project, about the history of the ATF. And I don't know if you pay attention, the ATF's pretty old. It's been around since the beginning of the country for the most part, since the Whiskey Rebellion, when the government, our first tax was on whiskey to pay for the revolution. And when people quit paying that tax, they invented the ATF to go get them, or to basically didn't. No, they didn't. They invented the ATF to collect the tax, and not like go collect it, but because people were voluntarily paying the tax to pay off the revolution, because they just paid for, they did the revolution. People weren't assholes. They were like, yeah, let's pay for it. We'll pay for it with whiskey tax. And then the ATF was set up to hold the bucket while they were throwing tax in there. At some point, people got sick of paying the tax. And then the ATF went from a regulatory agency to an enforcement agency as well, right? So now it's enforcing the people that ain't paying that tax. Well, why don't we make prohibition? Why don't we just make it illegal to have all alcohol? Well, that accidentally created organized crime. I don't know if it was accidentally or not, but that's up to Honda's conspiracy chat to talk about. But we know that the consequence of national prohibition in the 30s was to create organized crime. So large gangsters, Al Capone, all that, Valentine's Day Massacre, and now there's an NFA, because the media and the manipulative politicians create a hype and concern about a handful of organized crime that were created by prohibition, created by national law, and their response is to give the agency that is at this point in regulating and enforcing alcohol taxes, they give them the new task of firearms as well. So now it's alcohol and firearms, and I guess tobacco. I forget when tobacco in the 50s or something, tobacco gets thrown in there, or maybe it was before that. I forget. Who cares? So now they're an enforcement agency because of organized crime, and now they become they go from Treasury to they went from IRS to Treasury, and they become basically, you go from being accountants, tax collectors, to cops and strong arms, jackboots. And once they get a thirst for power and enforcement, right? So calling them a regulatory agency is half of it. They do regulate, right? They do, create these burdens and these paperwork bureaucracies and these loopholes and everything that everybody has, not loopholes, I guess, but hurdles that everybody has to jump constantly to be in compliance. But then they also enforce them. So they regulate and then enforce them themselves, unlike other agencies that are like the IRS or something that might regulate what's going on with your taxes. But when it comes time to enforce them, they'll just send, the FBI or somebody. Maybe I picked a bad example, but like the Park Service isn't going to your house to collect a debt or something. They'll use other law enforcement. The ATF has their own law enforcement. Then, of course, when you let that law enforcement loose on people like Ruby Ridge and Waco, you end up creating heinous, evil sons of bitches that then presidents recommend to be heads of the freaking own department. But that's a comment on something different. So now we're going to move to this one. This one doesn't look like boilerplate. Comment number 8441. Hello, my name is Bill. I'm not going to say his last name. And I live in California. I am concerned with docket number ATF 2021 R-05, AG, order number 5051-2021. The definition of framer receiver is extremely vague to me, which makes it impossible to determine what is legal and what is not, since there is no solid definition provided by the ATF. The definition of readily is also extremely hard to help with determining legality. Considering one can use industrial grade machine to churn out full blower receiver from solid chunk of aluminum for an AR in less than an hour, the term readily is extremely vague. I like it. It doesn't really say don't do it. It just says there's concern. But that's your comment. You're allowed to dig it. Good job on that one. Next one is 8445. Wasn't it the last one? No. 8445. This change would be better served as a bill passed by Congress, the current laws and interpretation is best. It's right on the edge of there, but I think we get the gist. Everybody's okay with that one? Let's go. I said I was going to look at these comments, so let's do that. So there's Culver giving me $5, the only person that has so far. I appreciate it because I use that money to pay my bills and be able to do stuff like this and not starve to death or get kicked out of this place. You can swear all you want, but I ain't going to post them on my screen. That is what happens when you run out of bubble gum. Nothing else to do but kick butt. I think he's talking about what he's doing, and he won't let me talk about. Government and Skynet equals bad idea. Government made Skynet, so government equals bad idea. Not that government's a bad idea. Unregulated, unsupervised government's a bad idea. And since we are government, Biden even said, we the people is us, right? We know what the president told us we are. We got to do something about it. Oops, sorry about that. I hit the wrong button. I don't know what you're talking about. They just tried to think of a multiple ways of putting out mom and pop businesses out of business and to price out the poorest from owning guns. I guess if you can have that opinion if you want. I really don't think they care. I think they just would rather have power. 81% of the U.S. supports this change. I read a social media post by Thomas Paine earlier. I heard that he was taking a break from social media for the weekend to barbecue. Some could take that one comment, break it up, reword it, and then send it back as two. Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the reasons I read this is so that people, if they haven't thought of an angle or a concept, then they can word it how they want and consider posting it as a comment of their own. Oh, look at that, of their own. Damn right, stay pissed. I'm not pissed. I'm just not, happy that they're doing dumbass shit in front of us. All right, so next up is 8464. I am retired from the Air Force and a disabled veteran. As someone who served this country for over 20 years, I found your rule changes regarding the 80% lowers ghost guns and wanting all upper receivers to be serialized is unconstitutional and illegal. First, it is and always has been legal to build your own firearm. You, the ATF, and our government have no business knowing our weapons. Making rules forcing me to get my homemade firearm only creates paper trail registry of my weapons. A registry is illegal. Second, forcing me to get my slides for pistols, uppers, and ARs and other split receiver weapons is also unconstitutional for the same reason, creating a paper trail telling you what weapons I have. Every change you are proposing is against the law. You are redefining rules that are not laws but treated as such and going to make criminals of millions of law-abiding citizens who want to defend their families, home and land from danger. Well, he must be a pilot because he spells like a pilot. But good sentiment and concise and has a speaks from a position of what do they call that? Authority? I don't know. Anyway, right on. Thank you for the brace this. Right on. Yep. Thanks for being out there. All right, so we'll keep digging. I'll leave this one up on the screen. Again, appreciate $5. I can definitely use it. So next one up is 8453. Stop changing rules. This will have zero impact on crime and only hurt good law-abiding citizens. The more gun laws you make, the more you are infringing on a constitutional God-given right. Shall not be infringed is pretty simple. Stop changing the rules and stop infringing. People have been making their own arms since the beginning of arms. It's protection, it's safety, it's assurance, it's freedom. Don't stand in the way of freedom. Have some integrity. I like that one a lot for whatever reason. Really like it. Next up, 8465. These changes are grossly unconstitutional. The definition of regulate during the signing of the Second Amendment of 2A was to be regular, as in kept working. There are no grounds for government of any level to control what weapons citizens buy, sell, or own. The only thing more abominable about this bill is the ATF can even think about changing anything without the consent of Congress or the president. The president consented, dude. The president told him to do this. So I get you, but this last part, maybe leave that part out. But yeah, and the signing of the Second Amendment, I don't think you get to throw 2A in that one. That's a little awkward. All right, so next up is, well, I guess I'll read these. So thanks again to Erstwhile for throwing this down. Did both of these super chats come from Texas? Holy crap, I've gotten all my super chats from this chat from Texas. I'm not saying that all the rest of the states are lacking and don't even care about the Second Amendment or this chat. I'm just saying that Texas has thrown every single dollar. I might as well move to Texas. Let's see. It smells like a pilot. Yep. Let's see. Clover Tech. Missed the stream yesterday. I really wanted to watch it. It was a subject that really interests me. I had to go out of town. I didn't have a chance to tune in. Oh, you're talking about Clover's chat last night? Yeah, it's all right. We'll throw Clover's link back up here because of the $5 and because a dude wanted to watch your chat. All right, next up is 8428. This rule does nothing more than overregulate law-abiding citizens and will not deter criminals from using firearms to commit crime. Once again, our government chooses to push regulations on its citizens, infringing upon their constitutional rights. I'm down with that one. It doesn't really get into it, but it just tells them their place. You know, half of this is letting them know their place, I think, because they don't care. They don't give a shit. They're just reading these. But, you know, if you can slap them a little bit when they're reading it, I think there's value to that. What do you think? All right, this is another boilerplate. All of this I'm not going to read because it's boilerplate, and I'm already bored of it. Whose boilerplate is this? This is an indication that their membership is lazy or following rules to the letter and they didn't give them good rules. Tell me. I don't know. I don't know whose boilerplate that is. I'm guessing whose boilerplate it is. I bet you I think I know whose boilerplate it is, but you let me know if you know. So anyway, this is number 8429. The private manufacture of a defensive tool for use in my own home is not interstate commerce. You have no authority to regulate this. All right, I mean, that's two declarative statements or whatever the words are, right? But it doesn't really tell them what to do about it. I guess the rest of this boilerplate is going to tell them, for these reasons, I am respectfully requesting that you do not enact these rules, I guess. That's asking a lot. That's assuming a lot that your boilerplate is going to get read and not get tossed. I don't know. Clover's out there. He pays more attention to this. It's obviously gone through and it's approved as a comment. So I'm guessing it's in here. They didn't use that to discriminate or to filter it out. But well, whatever. There's probably no actual human giving a shit in the ATF about this. But I don't know. We got 35 people watching. So with a yes or no, do you think that a human reads these? That's just the first question. I'm not going to ghost the question here, especially since it's going to be weird lag. Do you think that the ATF reads these with a yes or a no? Like, do you think a human reads it? Or do you think, like, if you say no, what you're saying is some kind of robot reads it and they just determine through Al Gore's rhythms if the comment is, positive or negative? Or do you think that they're hiring a bunch of temp workers at like way more than minimum wage to sit somewhere in their house and determine whether or not these things are good? In which case they probably have to have a supervisor or a level of quality control that would also test the results of the work that's being done to make sure that it's actually being done. Or maybe they don't. I don't know. Maybe this is that work. So we got 2 no's so far. People think that AI is reading this. Next up is 8433. Please stop attempting to rewrite definitions. You're turning millions of law-abiding Americans into instant criminals for absolutely nothing. And it's tiring that us gun owners have to keep trying to defend ourselves from these constant, redundant rule changes. I mean, it ain't the best sentence ever with the words being the way they are, but man, it gets the point across. I really dig that one too. I like these little short ones. I feel like these are the people that walk. Oh, you know what it is? I seen a post the other day, and I forget who it is. Some old Europe guy, so it really doesn't matter. Some Europe guy back when they wore wigs and dresses or whatever they did, was getting hung because he was a jerk or he was good. I don't know. But anyway, he was getting hung, and they came up and read him his or showed him his death thing or whatever, some kind of process for getting hung back in the day. And then his last words were, "You have 3 spelling errors." So I kind of like that, like F you to him, and sort of like, you know, giving him the comment, but also giving him a subtle or a not so subtle F you. I like that. All right, so robots. The way I understand it, they are red, most of them, but they are sorted through AI first. What is he saying here? Robots and temp workers, best of both worlds. I guess you always win if you pick both answers, huh? This isn't high school. Got to pick an answer. Yes, probably, but not with any care. So that's what I think. Just a temp worker whose eyeballs they're paying for. Not sure how a bot could determine good or... Oh, please. You want to know how they could determine good or bad? First off, you got AI already, so they don't even have to do nothing. They can just borrow somebody else's AI. But all you got to do is have it read every comment, and every time it reads a comment, it learns, and then it gets pretty easy. I don't want to get into machine learning, but it's super easy, I bet. I'm not even into this, and I bet you I could figure it out. Freedom Train is in high gear. ATF and infringements are scared of the train. We are going far, very strong. Everyone. Okay, cool. All right. So another of the boilerplates. Now at this point, I think I picked the entire front page sequentially. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14. We're only 14 in. So this is still like a batch of them that were, I guess, approved together. So we probably still have down to here or something before we're out of that sequential order. And here we have another of these boilerplates. So I think boilerplates are lazy because every time I do them, I would at least chop out like a third of them. I usually take the good paragraph and then wrap some stuff around the good paragraph. But what it is, whatever. That's like picking up a piece of confetti at a fair parade and being like, you know what? I don't like the way this piece of confetti was cut out. I feel like this piece of confetti wasn't cut out perfectly. You know, who gives a fucking shit? So next up, Joe Biden as a president is a liberal Democrat. Mistake. My Second Amendment isn't up for negotiation. All right, that's kind of funny because it's like probably going to be ignored by everyone universally, except for people that hate Biden that much, but that was a waste of time, dude. I think you nulled your whole thing by raging against the president in there. I mean, you can have whatever you want. I just think you're wasting your time. That's like walking into the pizza place and complaining about your tacos. You're just missing the point, guy. Awesome stream. I just subscribed. Right on. My favorite was when I saw the Zoom on joining the ATF, and the person said, as a potential employee, I'm supposed to not understand this second or just to ignore it. Nice. Like a real question, or like they got in there just to troll them? 81% of the people use boilerplate. Yeah. Skynet. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they AI'd it first, for sure, just because that would save so much time. But then, and I don't know if I would consider like a AI pre-screening an answer to my question or not, because I think if you AI pre-screen it, have robots look at through all of them first and put them into 2 piles, and then have humans to, you know, double check to see if the piles are legit or not. That's still a human doing it. Just because you have somebody comb the garbage first before you have a person hand touch every piece of garbage, it's still going through the garbage, right? So that's where, even if this did get combed first and put into a pile for the person is still going to get dull-eyed like me. All right, this is a boilerplate. All right, this is a boilerplate. So even if their job is just to like sit down and click buttons all day, at the end of the day, their supervisor is going to go, hey, you're still alive? Like, you're not suing us? Like, you're going to go home and come back tomorrow? You're going to do your normal supervisor stuff? And then you're going to say something like, more than likely, like, how was your day? What kind of questions were they? Do you have any, you want to decompress or say something to me as your supervisor in our relationship here? And then that employee may or may not go, man, all of these things were pro for individual rights and freedom, and they all told the ATF to suck it. Or that person could say, wow, I didn't expect this many people to give a crap about their own individual freedom, and they understand that we're trying to hork their rights, you know, like that kind of stuff. And then when the supervisor talks to Biden at the end of the day, because, you know, he runs down the hallway. When he's jogging, he runs down the hallway to the ATF, and he's all like, hey, acting ATF supervisor that we haven't had an ATF head in 2 administrations, like 7 years already. Hey, what's happening with those comments? And then that supervisor's like, dude, I have been, dude Biden, right? Because that's what they call him, dude Biden, or sometimes they call him Biden bro. But they'll be like, dude Biden, I was just talking to all my dudes who were reading all the comments, and dude, they all think the ATF's infringing, man. And then Biden's going to be like, snap, I didn't even think about that. I'm going to run back over to the Oval, because that's what he calls it. I'm going to run back over to the Oval, and I'm going to tell the ATF to stop infringing. That's going to be what's going to happen. So I'm just laying it down the way it's probably going to happen. Let's see. If you start doing good comments, you keep doing this, it ain't going to happen. But if you do good comments, that's probably what's going to happen. How good would it be if somebody animated that? That would be cool, right? Have Biden running around, jogging suit and them little glasses. Like remember when Biden was getting driven around by the Ford driver and you wear them glasses? Makes it look like you're driving fast. All right, anyway, so this is comments on this, not on Biden's driving. 8452. I strongly oppose the rule change to the ATF. Come on, if you're going to put the E in there, you got to put the B in there. You can't say ATFA. That's not even a thing. So I strongly oppose the rule change to the ATFE is proposed. The rule change the ATFE is proposing. The ATFE is over legal authority, and they don't get to make changes to how to read the law. The ATFE is not a judge. I would like that this proposal gets thrown out and is never considered again. I like it. And I kind of like now that they're saying ATFE to bug the BATFE or the ATF or whatever they call themselves. You think people in ATF are sitting around the break room like saying BATFA, or do they say ATFA like when they're talking about themselves? I think they probably go with the shorter to save time. But they're also bureaucrats. So it's possible that just as a reflex, like they have to say the whole thing, and they say it out. They don't just say BATFE, because that would take too long, or that wouldn't take long enough. They have to say, oh, well, you know, I do work for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, because that takes like 40 seconds, and they get paid by the hour. So next up is number 8466. I'm opposed to this rule change. It is an infringement on my Second Amendment rights. I would rub my dog's belly if she was in here for that comment. That's the way they're supposed to work, right? Bam. Shut up, ATF. Sure. I think we should put 8FT in the comments. I don't think I have seen one with AFT. I think I've seen one that says, or AFT as your boss would say it, right? I think there was one like that. Where are we at? Oh, hold on, Norvik. How did that get approved? Which one? Which one was I talking about? I don't know which one you're talking about. At 146, I could have been talking about any comment. Keep in mind, I might not read your comment on here, especially if it's not a super chat. I mean, I'll read this super chat over and over again, and I'll read this super chat over and over again, because that's paying my bills, right? You just put some chat in here, I might not even read it. I ain't got time for that. But if I do read it, I might read it like hours later. So you got to be more specific in here. Where'd that one go? How'd that get approved? I don't know. Yeah, the caller was trolling them. They did stumble to answer it. Oh, that's awesome then. I kind of want to see that. If you would, throw me a link to that, eh? If you don't know Tactical Six String, you're first gen gun channels, I think. Sorry, it's been a long time. But this dude's at least second and third gen, and then I think he was gone before Clover's generation came along. I'm pretty sure you were way long gone before that, actually. So this dude's from back in the day when Mankey and Matt and me were chatting off before gun channels and stuff. And then when gun channel started, this dude was around and plays the guitar. So that's what the Six String's about. And then motorcycles, if I remember correctly. But I guess he's 2A again because he's back here. I think the Federal Register requires all to be read. Well, yeah, but I'm wondering, they could count a robot as being read. Or count a robot sorting it into piles. Well, no, I guess if they have to read it, then they would have to assign somebody to read it. But they could also say, I would think that the government could say, hey, if we got a good enough AI and it can sort these things into piles, and the only reason we're reading them is to know which pile to put them in, yes or no, or maybe, or I don't care, or, whatever number of piles there needs to be. If the robot can do just as good a job as the human, then for some amount of time, you're going to want a human to verify, but you're not going to have the human replicate the entire job to verify. You're going to have them quality control with some system to randomly pick items to verify that the AI is doing their job. So I think that might happen, but I'm assuming that it's eventually going to get to where just AI does it. But that doesn't mean that it's gone forever, because if AI can decipher what our comments are, that also means they're in a database that can be infinitely retrievable forever. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Clover will tell you, Skynet's good, lean into it. It's all right. They will just drop it and take up something else, global warming, infrastructure or something. Yeah, you know it, dude. They got a list of things that they can waste money on, your money on. I don't get enough super chats to pay taxes because I owe taxes, but I don't have enough super chats to actually pay taxes. So thanks again to Clover and Erstwhile for throwing money at me. So I'm not making money. That's $10 is what I made today. How much money you made today? I made $10 so far. All right, and then the ATF doesn't care about our comments. They don't see us as people, as an authority figure who can fire them for failing the country. Possibly. So the way you make that happen is you fire them, and then they realize it because they're fired, and the next understand that that's the consequence of misbehaving or being abusive to their power that we give them temporarily. Freedom Tunes YouTube channel, there's good animation and stuff like that. Yeah, I've seen a couple of people, but I haven't seen that particular. To my knowledge, it's all sort of organized and categorized first. If you read any of the past and final rulings, you know how many comments mention this and how many mention that. Oh, yeah, they do. They have like a sorted, filtered thing. I think they do that. And that's data mining, right? So that's like how they use this data to get infinitely more information from it than back in the day, where they would definitely depend on someone reading it and remembering and in their brain trying to keep track of how many piles there were and then writing it down at the end of the day and then coming up with other people with some sort of a system that they can all use and then retroactively trying to apply all that remembered data. It's horrible compared to what computers can do. But on the other hand, if we rely too much on automation and other people figuring it out, then we're pawns, we're suckers, we're puppets. So we keep an eye on stuff. That's what we're doing. I think we should put AFT, said that one. They're required to use pronouns. They're definitely trying to make the receivers a more fluid situation, like other things in life or in society. If we have that rule change, can we change the name of BTFE to Gestapo? I don't want to use a Nazi word, but we ought to change it to a more shitty word for sure. They shouldn't get anything near a cool name. They should have a shitty name that's lame. Roger that. They call themselves Antifa, no one is looking. I don't know about that. Anyone else find it ironic that Shitman said he would not, see what I did there? I put shit in front of his name because it smells, he always looks like he's smelling a shit. Shitman said could not define what an assault weapon was. Only Congress could do that. Yet here we are because BTFE is Congress, apparently. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Being sarcastic on like 4 different levels, but I'll dumb it down for the people that ain't 2A enough to keep up with you. Basically, Chipman was saying that he couldn't or he wouldn't define what assault weapons was. I'm actually okay with that because his job, his role as head of the ATF should not be to create policy. His job should be a robot to do what he's told. But that's scary when the person telling him to do stuff is not right, not right. That's a good way to say it. So I get that part of it, but I don't like Chipman. So that answer, although it was valid, was bullshit coming out of his mouth. But yeah, the idea that Congress actually did give the authority to ATF, actually to the executive branch and the attorney general, which have given it to the head of the ATF, which there is none for 2 administrations, but still technically they do have this power because Congress gave it to them. So we should be rightfully holding the fire to the feet of Congress to take back any authority they've given to ATF based on the heinous bullshit infringements that they've been doing. So I hear you, but hopefully that dumbed it down for the people that ain't 2A enough to keep up a barbecue. Absolutely guaranteed that the human is there just to verify yay or nay. Yep, I think so too. And then hate, and then 30 plus people and 15 thumbs up. Don't worry about it. I don't give a shit about anything. Where's Adam? I don't know who that is. Whatever. All right. Next up is the next one. So 8582, we do not support these rule changes and the American people don't either. We the people know this is an unconstitutional proposal and won't put up with it. You're literally want to make millions of Americans felons overnight. Laws are passed by Congress, not some three-letter agency. Some people would go, I don't like the spelling or whatever, but I like these ones. I like all of these ones. Next up is 8578. Man, it looks like boilerplate, but I don't think it is, so I'm going to read it. ATF 2021 R-05. It has not escaped anyone's attention that it has not escaped anyone's attention that the political attack on gun kits was written and organized by leftist lobbying groups, with the ATF serving as an unwitting tool. Nevertheless, you must have realized the following. Non-serialized guns are the purview of law-abiding hobbyists and are almost irrelevant to crime of any sort. For 5 years, the ATF scoured police reports, but was only able to find less than 1% of the reports involved even suspected privately made firearms, and then only if you included potential crime scenes as opposed to the actual ones. This, despite the fact that a single crime might involve hundreds of factory-made firearms. For decades, ATF encouraged hobbyists to fabricate firearms in their homes with definitions which multiple federal courts have found have excluded their work from both statutory and regulatory definitions of firearms and receivers. As with bump stocks, a politicized ATF has now turned on Americans who relied on its definitions, encouraging people who relied on regulatory action to spend hundreds of dollars only to render that property worthless for political motives is involved in regulatory taking under the Fifth Amendment. At a minimum, the ATF is constitutionally obliged to compensate people who lost money based on the agency's misrepresentations. Having said that, I encourage the ATF to withdraw these regulations. All right, I don't like the wording, and I didn't read that one good, but it's a good one, and I think it should just be more than one comment. So hopefully they commented other times, and this was like a summary of all of them, or like a combination of all of them, but I think these could easily be separate comments and a little easier to read, but that could just be me. I'm an hour into it. I'm not reading good. I'm not a good reader. Tried to call his service rifle an AR-15. Yeah, see, that kind of inconsistency, non-preciseness is an indication of a non-precise law enforcement officer. So why would you want somebody who's sloppy, imprecise, and so presumably ignorant, especially ignorant of the topic that he's supposedly going to regulate? Why would you even consider having somebody like that on board? Even if you were an anti, you wouldn't want an incompetent to go up against us, right? You'd want somebody who's as good as us to go up against us. So for these reasons, I really don't think this was a real nomination. This was a red herring designed to keep gun owners. I believe it's a red herring. It would seem more and more like a red herring to keep gun owners occupied and stirred up, so we wouldn't be paying attention to this, which has also happened at the same time. And he doesn't have any face cards in his hand. So he's trying to bluff with maybe a pair or a triple. And, he threw down a queen because it's the only face card he's got. He's going to have a garbage hand. And if we let him bluff, then we're the suckers on this one. But I'm beginning to think more and more that was a bunch of bluff, because there's nothing good about that guy. Oh, yeah, it was a BS cop-out answer, and if he got approved, he would forget having said that immediately. for sure. All right, so this was a pretty decent one. Not 100. I'm going to give this one an 87. No, I'm going to give it an 81%. I'll give that one an 81%. Oh, here's Night Strikes. Show me that it's Night Strike's comment without being signed Night Strike. Comment number 8565 shall not be infringed. All right, so next up is comment number 8553. Hello, I'm an individual who target shoots both for sport and to help train my eye-hand coordination that is diminished from severe neurological disease. This proposal would make obtaining firearms and parts for this training cost prohibitive in today's economic climate. Responsible gun owners and responsible tax-paying American citizens should not be made subject to this proposal. I strongly urge the ATF to evaluate the impact this proposal would cause to sporting gun owners, disabled people, and law-abiding citizens such as myself. Thank you, Nicholas. His last name is his business. That's amazing. I really like that one. That's why I like reading these, because if your Second Amendment is a dead cell phone battery, these are the USB cord to freedom. Let's see, 8546. I find this an intentional threat to the Second Amendment and the security of the rights of the people. I implore you to revoke the proposal of this rule. All right, let's take us. That's a great one. It's nice and concise, and it gives them a call to action. It tells them what to do. So there was only one whiny one, and that was on our side. It was just not as strong as some of these others, or as decisive as some of these others. So I wanted to take a second and count these. So I'm going to scroll back over. If you've never seen this before, I'm not going back over. Go watch a different show. So we started and we opened up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Oh, that was bad. I don't know how many it's been. Let's say it's been 7, 20. I don't know. I counted that horribly. So let's say it's been 20, and then I can't get this thing. What's going on here? It's like my tabs are working against me. I have so many tabs open. They're working against me. We have a bunch more to go, but here's the thing. We've read a bunch. There hasn't been one anti in the group. And more significant than the fact there are no antis is the fact that the 20th richest person on the world hired the marketing person from Monsanto. And I don't know if people understand how big a deal that is. Monsanto is not a little home office, mom and pop. Monsanto, go look it up. 20th richest person on the planet hired the marketing chick from Monsanto to hate you, to go against your rights, and to use every dirty trick, every manipulative tactic she has in her book to work against your rights and the rights of your descendants or whatever. So the fact that they haven't influenced this is interesting to me. I don't know. I'm not going to say more than that because I don't know if it means anything. I don't know if it means anything to you, but let me know. I'm going to go over to this thing because I am not used to it. I don't do it very often, but I'm going to switch that out. See how before, you probably didn't even notice, but before it said, thank you for supporting this channel, right? Me and what we're doing with super chats. 2 people did that. So now I'm putting this one up and it says our Patreons, the people that subscribe to what we do on the Patreon platform, our Patreons make it possible for us to spend time on projects like this. Thank you. So here's the deal. You are watching the fact that we got 2 super chats. So that's $10. I don't know how much money you made today. I've made $10 today. I don't know how much money it costs you to live. It costs me more than $10 to live. So I'm not doing what I would normally do, which is try to get people to buy crap off of my store, yourwebsites.com. I'm not doing that because I'm doing this. And I'm not bitching, but I am going to put this little thing at the bottom of the screen to let people know that if you appreciate that and you'd like to contribute to what we're doing, then one way to do that is on Patreon. Another way is by using a super chat, which is the little deal at the bottom here. So if you go over to here and you're watching this like a regular person, and then down here you click on this little guy, and then it says you can put a super sticker. Those are kind of lame. I would put a super chat, or I guess you can join the channel. I do have channel membership, so just like if you subscribe to Disney Channel and watch their garbage, or if you've subscribed to Netflix and wasted a lot of your life watching their garbage, or if you subscribe to maybe a video game system and wasted a bunch of your life, maybe your kids' lives, wiggling your thumbs around at each other, it's the same kind of thing, except instead of subscribing to multinational conglomerate that pays people a bunch of money to waste your time, we attempt to do stuff like this to keep people motivated for 2A and whatnot. So appreciate the people that haven't done it, because you're still sticking around and watching the thing, and that makes the numbers click. And then eventually I might make some money off of that. But CloverTac and Erstwhile threw actual money at me, so I do appreciate that. So I'm just making it known that we do have this little banner down here, and that banner is saying thanks to the people over on Patreon for making it possible for me to take some time without putting more than this amount of commercial into it. And this isn't the kind of commercial that makes you want to go buy a fucking flashlight or a knife or something. So, I don't get paid by any of them kind of people. All right, with that being said, we'll dig back into, the Second Amendment or whatever. So anyway, that got started with the thumbs up. You can eat your thumbs up. I can't. I eat money. I eat food when I pay for food with money that Clover gave me and Erstwhile gave me. And you can give it to me too. Click on that little dollar sign and make it happen. Watch the little cloud thing show up. You feel good. Just like a video game. You get the same sort of little engineered thrill of whatever the chemical is that those little colored bars are supposed to make you get. And you'll get the same thrill as if you won a video game. Except that I get money from it, and that means I'll be here tomorrow. Let's see. We were down to, it's a BS cop-out answer. Shipment was fine with gun and down people. For enforcement, that's why they wanted him. Yeah, and you have to be a certain kind of, disconnect, or a certain kind of, what's the word? Psychopath. I don't know. You definitely have to be able to shut off any kind of compassion or empathy in order to be a jackboot. So I don't know what it's like to be a jackboot, but I'm assuming it's a switch and you're a human and then you flip over to jackboot. Otherwise you're just jackboot all the time, but definitely the reason they picked him. I think though, I know we were talking about it earlier, at least I was talking about it earlier, I think they picked him because there's no way anybody in the world would ever pick him, and they're just trying to distract and use us as a mechanism, but we'll see. I don't really care about that guy as much as the proposed rule to the definition of firearms. I believe this guy, not Wolfwind, but the Shipman, is a distraction so that we don't pay attention to this, and more importantly, to the comments, to what we call ourselves, to what our fellow citizens, our peers, are saying to our government, which is in effect a way for us to understand the mindset of our peers. So if they can distract us with what his face is doing and how shitty he is and how it looks like he smelled a fart all the time, then we're not paying attention to how awesome we each are and how much effort we're putting into it, right? Like how many comments have there been? 30-something thousand last time I remember, and we're up to 9,500 approved comments. If you want, in a minute here, we'll take a look at some of the previous years, but we're pretty effective and pretty determined, and I suspect this kind of garbage is the stuff that they're trying to throw down to distract. The ATF actually cared about illegal use of firearms. They'd go after the ones smuggled in prisons by the cartels that are not being addressed at all, and the ones being smuggled across the border. Yeah, that has it has a lot to do with a lot of angles, but I definitely agree with you, and I'm not sure, but I suspect we're going to see some changes next year when they change some, I don't know what to call it, like when they change the way that the different government agencies work with each other. I think the way I understand it is that's going to change in 2022. It's been like something that they're working up to. And of course, this administration will take credit for it, even though it started multiple administrations ago. And I think we're going to see some massive changes there at some point. Not for good or bad. I just think we're going to catch up with technology, and we'll be more aware of what's actually happening, and that'll be a sobering effect for everybody, for both sides of the political fence. But I don't know. Can I buy a shotgun at 18? You can buy a shotgun at any age, depending on what state you live in and where you live. There's going to be caveats to that, but as an individual, you can do whatever you want. The law says what you can do. Again, it depends on what state and all that you live in and what your situation is. If you're the son or daughter of someone, it's different than if you're a emancipated individual at 18, and it's different if you're 2 2-year veteran of the military living in Puerto Rico, or if you're in jail. So can I buy a shotgun at 18 is not quite an inappropriate question, but it's certainly a vague question that I'm not going to try to answer on a chat about the ATF. Existing laws addresses all of what they want, and these are overreaching. Like you always said, the cake is only so big, and we seem to always give up a piece and get nothing in return. Yeah, the problem is, I think what they're trying to do is take a big bite out of the cake, chew on it a little bit, and then just open their mouth and let the chewed up cake fall out and be like, no, we didn't take any. You still got all your cake right there. And I don't like eating cake like that. That's just me, but I don't like eating cake after somebody did that to it. You have to be 21 to buy handguns. I should know this, but I think 18 for rifles and shotgun. You can own a gun at any age, but buying one is different. That's a great way of saying it. So according to the laws, in order to purchase from an FFL, the FFL has a set of constraints or obligations they have to do to keep their FFL. And that's what we typically all concede are the laws, which is actually bullshit. There are no laws. That's just regulations on a licensee. So in other words, if you go to your grandpa, there's no federal jurisdiction over that. If you go to your friend down the street, there's less regulation over that, but there is. At the state level, there'll be potentially some, for sure. The local level, there could be, depending on where you live. There's a thing called preemption. Some cities are older than the states they're in, and often in those cases, the city preempts laws of the state because the city existed before the state did, in a nutshell. So there's that type of situation, and that can be a what if, or that can be a variable to your question. And then again, each state law is different. So go to somebody else's chat and ask that question. You'll get a direct answer and you'll know that it's wrong. So then go to somebody else's chat and they'll actually explore the answer with you. And then you'll have an opportunity to figure out how to get your actual answer yourself. But never ask a question like that. Learn how to get your own answer, because that isn't a black and white. That is a question that will change. It'll be dynamic based on the laws and the changing environment of legal landscape. So learn how to get that answer. Don't ask people that answer. I'm assuming you're young. If you're old and you're asking that question, you're lazy. If you're young and you're asking that question, learn how to answer it yourself and you'll be better off. You'll enjoy your life better. Next is a super chat. So nobody, RE comments. Are there any asking for clarification? The more confusing and excessively liberal definitions on parts, pipes, blocks, or springs? So that's an awesome question. So I've read maybe 100 of these ones now. And no, none of them have said, please clarify. A lot of them have said, a couple of them have said, this is difficult to understand, or this is not clear. Nobody asked for a definition, but there are ones that focus on the lack of clarity. I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm certainly going to spend that $5. I do appreciate it. So at this point, I've gotten at least $10 in. So I don't know if you know how YouTube works. They take a couple of bucks out of that to make the system work. So appreciate it. I've already made $10 today now. So much appreciated. I know some people will be like, oh, thanks for the $50 super chat. Let's go on and have a blah, blah, blah. Like, that's $5, dude. I only made $15 today. YouTube took 5 of it. So I do appreciate that very much. Thank you. Let's see. It's easier to arrest law-abiding people. Same reason cops are now arresting people who defend themselves. And you can look at it that way. Or you can not be manipulated and look at it for real. Which isn't the opposite. It's just not looking at it the way somebody who's trying to manipulate you wants you to look at it. But you're going to do whatever you want, dude. Arrest the driver instead of the rioters for breaking your windows. This isn't that chat, so you guys can keep chatting about that, and I'll begin to ignore your chats because we're chatting about the ATF. Why is it that the ATF arrests people who are doing anything wrong if they ignore criminals? Well, because the ATF isn't police. ATF is a regulatory and enforcement agency on the application of firearms and the bureaucracy around them. So the ATF doesn't patrol the streets looking for gun violations. I don't think you want that. I know you don't want it. And I don't want that. I don't think anybody wants to live in a world where we have a large enough ATF that they patrol the street looking for random gun violations. So the reason the ATF only goes after gun people is because they're a gun enforcement and regulatory agency. We're done with that, guys. If you're not going to talk about what we're talking about and you're going to try to divert it into weird political shit, you're out of here. It's scary, okay? I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery. That's a good one, and most people don't think about that one enough, I think. The proposed definition is open-ended and literally says it can be a frame unless the ATF says it isn't. This isn't a good faith proposal. Definitely not with this party, right? Not the ATF is the party that you're trying to have good faith with. You have nothing but lack of faith with this organization. All right, next we're going to another comment. This is what we're all about. We've been doing this for a little over an hour now with comments. So if you don't like this, I don't care. Go somewhere else. You're not even here if you don't like this. If you do like this, comment, because there's 27 people out there. At this point, I got nothing else to prove. I've done my hour. I made my $10. I technically make $10 an hour at this point. So I'm going to shut it down if there's not comments that are pertinent to what we're talking about here, and not, you can go to Matt's chat. Matt will rage with you about whatever hatred, and Hondo will rage with you, but I'm not interested in that. These new regulations will do nothing to stop gun crime and only serve to create new criminals where there were none before. Reconsider your oath to the Constitution and the people of this republic. Is making your agency more relevant worth the destruction of our rights? Interesting. That's an interesting last sentence. And how cool would it be if you could actually talk to a person who represented the ATF? Interesting. I wonder who, I don't even know who the acting head is, but I wonder if they're making decisions or if they're just rubber stamping everything and somebody who's puppeting Biden is making the decisions. Next up is 8624. I do not support this change. Please stop changing regulations. This rule will only affect those who have continued to follow the rules for years. This will not impact the group you are supposedly trying to target with this rule, but will affect tens of thousands of upstanding citizens. Please do not change the current rule. You know, people put a lot of thought into it, and I remember when Barbecue was out there yesterday. Oh, appreciate it. Thanks for throwing in another $10. I will use that for buying things. Barbecue was out there yesterday suggesting, because of Woods, this one dude who likes bacon, comes along and says, oh, I just made a comment. It took me 7 minutes. And then Barbecue was like, hey, yeah, why don't you go make a comment? And just told the world, why don't you go make a comment? It only takes 7 minutes. And then people were like, it takes so long and I don't know what to say and I haven't researched it and I don't have enough knowledge and they don't want to hear from me and I don't know if I should. Look at this. I do not support this change. Please stop changing regulations. This rule will only affect those who have continued to follow the rules for years. This will not impact the group you are supposedly trying to target with the rule, but will affect tens of thousands of upstanding citizens. Please do not change the current rule. I don't think this person did a heck of a lot of research. If they did, they didn't express it in this comment, and this comment is so solid, I don't think it could, I mean, I guess technically they didn't write whatever the hell we're supposed to write in here, 2021 or whatever, R-5, whatever, but, you know, aside from that, like this is, I would say this shortened to this point, and this didn't require a bunch of like research and thought. It's just expressing a comment to the regulatory agency, which is attempting to infringe, overstep their role. So you don't have to be a lawyer and you don't have to be something fancy to comment. Oh, thank you. Regina Lombardo. I know I've heard it. I knew it was a female. I didn't remember her name though, so I do appreciate that. So I'm wondering if, I guess the question is, I wonder if Regina, can I call her Gina? Is that sexist? I wonder if Regina is making these things, if she's steering the ship and Biden's like, yeah, right on, let's go. Or if he's telling her, steer it to the left, more to the left, more. And she's like, no, it's going to tip over. He's like, more, I don't care. Because he doesn't drive. He has that dude next to him drive, right? Please reconsider any changes. This is number 8587. Please reconsider any changes to the definition to what constitutes a firearm. This is an attempt to further the infringements on law-abiding citizens' rights to own and manufacture firearms for their own personal use. Making it illegal for a private citizen to manufacture their own firearm does absolutely nothing to prevent violent crimes and does everything to prevent law-abiding citizens from exercising their Second Amendment rights. If a criminal wants to manufacture a gun to commit a crime with, then there is no law that will prevent them from doing so, as the penalty for any crime committed with that firearm will be far harsher than the act of creating that firearm in the first place. Again, all it will do is further infringe on law-abiding citizens' rights. There are enough ineffective gun laws already. We do not need to add another erroneously unconstitutional one to the already overwhelming number of laws infringing on citizens' rights. I don't know that one word, but otherwise I like that one. It's a good one. I already like this one. 8626. Any infringement is already prohibited. ATF does not make law. Rules are not law. I don't like it as much. I thought it was going to be cool because it was just a sentence, but I think it's a little bit too, it's like a haiku, and they're not smart enough to get it. Next is 8625. Criminals do not pay attention to laws or rulings. Just wanted to let you know. I get it. I don't know if they're going to get it, but I like that one. They're not going to. What the fuck is this? So, what is this? I guess you can put attachments. I think I did see an attachment before. So this one is nothing but attachment. No, I didn't see attachments. I saw somebody quote something before. So I guess you can put an attachment in there. And bravo to whoever this is. 8594. The first comment I've seen with an attachment. And it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 attachments. Oh, you know what? Since I did read that thing for 2.5 hours yesterday, I guess I do remember that there is a portion of the garbage that what do you call this thing? A bill, legislation, proposal, whatever the thing is called, is 34 pages long. There is a section in it, and if you scroll down the tab that says whatever it's called, the document, you scroll down it, you'll find a section that's called like commenting or comment procedure or something like that. I think it's called commenting. And in that couple of paragraphs where they talk about how to do what we're looking at here, how to do these comments, it will say that if you want to insert or if you want to include pictures of your invention or something, or if your trademarked logos or something, like, you can do it, but they're not going to guarantee that your stuff won't be seen. So I'm wondering if I should click on one of these. I'm kind of scared now because they're weird. George Washington quotes frugal, so it sounds like one of them might be a quote. So what I'm looking at is the names of these files, and they're just weird names that don't mean anything. Hashed out something. And then one of them is called 5A and one of them is called 569. It looks like they're different types of documents. These all seem to be some kind of a document. This one might be an image. So I'm not going to click on them because I don't want to get a virus from the government. So I'm not going to click on them. If you want to click on them and make a video about it, I'll watch the video and then give you a phone number of somebody to call to get rid of your virus. All right, so next is 8680. The rule change is a political hit job on otherwise law-abiding citizens. This is wrong. Do not do this. It works. I get it. I don't have any confusion as to that person's position. Next up is comment 8724. I am a young man who is very interested in getting started in the firearms business. Everything about guns and how they work interests me. I buy, trade, and sell firearms parts that aren't receivers, so I am not restricted by FFL requirements. I am very concerned about how ambiguous this bill is, and I feel that it was purposely created that way to maliciously target people such as myself. It is very unclear on what parts would fall under new FFL parts and could make many parts I trade and sell unrestricted regularly now a serious crime. I will always follow the ATF and any other firearms regulation laws as diligently as I can, but I just want the people writing these laws to understand that I do not believe this will have any effect on U.S. gun violence or the safety of that the ATF is pushing it seems like that is their goal. Right. So, have I found, oh, look how fast I answered this. Dude, he gave me 15 answer that dude's questions. Right? You want that kind of immediate attention? $15. So, have you seen any pro ATF comments? No. Well, no pro bill at all, and nothing that seems very pro ATF. Nothing that's gone. Well, no, I would say a couple of things have gone specifically against the ATF for even bringing up such a bullshit suggestion. But I don't know if their hands are tied or not. But F them. Their job is to bring these things up, and if they don't want to deal with that, then that's part of their job description. They're getting paid by us to do it. But if they're not happy with it, I feel sorry for them. I hope that there are a bunch of ATF agents that don't like this and that are doing it with gritted teeth because it's their job. And I appreciate them for dealing with it if that is the case. But how do we know if that's the case or not? It would actually be interesting. I know a couple of people do interview ex-ATF agents. Unfortunately, there's no possible way I'll ever watch the shows that tend to do that. If anybody who's worth a shit and isn't an asshole ever interviews some of those ex-ATF agents, it would be cool to ask the question about the other ATF agents, like when they were working there, or if they have insight to the current ATF agents, what the mindset is like at the ATF. The only thing I have is, the reason I bring that up is I knew a guy back in the day that worked for another agency in Washington, D.C. and often worked with ATF. And then after he retired and he hung out at the gun shop that I hung out at, we had lots of conversations because I'm interested in stuff like this. And what I found super interesting from that guy's conversation was that a lot of the people he knew at ATF got into it because maybe they had some passion about tobacco or alcohol. And then once they're in the organization, once they're in the agency, it's now a bureau. Once they're in it, they got transferred or they got promoted or something happened. And all of a sudden they're working in the gun portion. They had no interest in ever doing the gun portion. So, I just found that interesting. I never thought about it like that. But, when you have an agency or a bureau that is, I think it's a bureau that's tasked with such a diverse amount of shit to try to administer, then, you're bound to get people that join the thing for one thing. That'd be like joining the Air Force to fly and then find out that the Air Force actually has boats. And guess what? You're going to be a boat dude in the Air Force. Like, what? Anyway, so I like this one. This dude seems like a good dude and hope he has a successful business and happy family from it. Next up is 8698. Oh, wait, stuff going on here. I'm going to guess it's like most other law enforcement's us against them mentality. I don't know. I don't think that's the case. There can be that us against them when you're talking about the criminals, yes. But that doesn't apply to the us against them, like the little girl who lost her kitten in the tree. I mean, that doesn't get, that doesn't happen. Except by accident, I suppose it could happen. I believe that, okay, this is number 8698. I believe that ATF 2021 R-05, Federal Register Number 2021-10058, will create an undue cost burden to the average American citizen and retain the manufacturer. Oh my goodness, this is boilerplate. I'm going to say it again. I believe that ATF 2021 R-05, Federal Register Number 2021-10058, will create an undue cost burden to the average American citizen and restrain the manufacturing of firearms both publicly and commercially. The rule change is not feasible, nor is it practical. I oppose ATF 2021 R-05. 1. I'm an American citizen that has been creating firearms for my own use for many years. I feel this is a burden that will restrain me from exercising my constitutional rights and will not stop nor reduce crime in any way. Please enforce the laws that are already on the books to stop criminals. I am and always have been a law-abiding citizen. Please attack the bad guys and support us good guys. Please don't infringe on our constitutional rights. All right, so you used boilerplate, so I'm going to criticize. First off, you used boilerplate, so whatever. Hopefully people that are watching this realize what boilerplate is like on the other end. I'm seeing it. I'm not using boilerplate ever again. just because it looks lame. I don't want to have, you know, the same car as 1,000 people. I don't want the same gun as 1,000 other people. I'm not going to have the same ATF comment as 1,000 other people. This part here, though, please enforce the laws that are writing the books to stop criminals. I am always and always have been a law-abiding citizen. Please attack the bad guys and please support the good guys. Please don't infringe on our constitutional rights. The only thing I'm going to suggest there is a petty, tiny little thing, but it turns you into a 2A activist. Here, when you do this, all you got to do is add one word, and it turns you from some dude who's like 2A bro to like a 2A hero, right? So if you want to go from 2A bro to, in other words, turn yourself into, do it this way, a 2A hero, right? Is you take this comment, which is, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Night Strike would yell that. And then you go like this. Our Constitution wholly protected rights. The Constitution doesn't give you your rights. The Constitution stops the government from infringing on your rights. So otherwise, this is an awesome comment. But just to be a teacher, because I hang out with Woods too much, I'm putting a circle around that, and then a little thing in red over here that says, please don't infringe on our constitutionally protected rights. And then you sound like a hardcore 2A mofo. People leave you alone when you're super hardcore 2A also. Get out of your way. They get out of your 2A way. 8696 is the next one. I oppose the ATF's proposed receiver rule. The Constitution and Bill of Rights is very specific on what the laws concerning firearms are and who in the U.S. government is allowed to write new laws. The ATF is not part of the law making process. This proposed rule ignores the lawmaking process is not even following the laws referenced. If the ATF or Justice Department want these proposed rules, the ATF or Justice Department needs to send these suggestions to Congress. Man, that one's awesome. I really like that one. I don't know if we've had enough angles on that one. Imagine if you were somebody that's out there going, there's nothing to make content about. I would like to make content, but no, I don't know. I don't have the right kind of toys to do show and tell, and I can't get people to give me shit so I can make people buy it, and I don't know what to do. I want to make content. Well, then go do this. Go like read through these comments and make like a list on a spreadsheet and like go after how many different angles people have addressed in these comments. That would be super fun. I wish I had time to do that. Or the kind of resources, like if I was Crump is over here. If I was Crump, I would have one of my minions tasked with going out and doing that. Go data mine the ATF stuff. Like one time Walt came in here and he just data mined the ATF comments one time. Like I'd have some of these hot whiz bang kids. They could probably do it on their phone, dude. And then just tell them to data mine. Like how many does it, like using an algorithm, the same thing that they're going to use to sort these things. Send an algorithm into these 9,540 comments that are approved and say how many angles are in there, how many points of view are represented by this set of data. That would be cool. And that's the kind of power we have as clever people that created the concept of machine learning and adapting, you know, computerized learning into processors and chips and whatnot that everybody's so happy about. Now all we got to do is wiggle our fingers on glass, and that makes the chips do stuff. And clever kids know how to wiggle their fingers all efficiently and whatnot. And we could have just tons of cool data dripping out of these 95 or 9,500 comments. 8712 is the next one. You have no authority to supersede the legislative branch and arbitrarily change decades of law and instantaneously make hundreds of thousands to millions of Americans felons should they not relinquish their lawfully owned property due to your capricious regulatory antics. Furthermore, such regulations are obviously, by any competent person's reading of the plain and simple language used in the Constitution, unconstitutional in the first place. Furthermore, these restrictions would strike further at the very heart of our freedom and run contrary to our spirit of independence. How is one free and independent from the shackles of tyranny if they can't even build otherwise legal items from raw materials without first asking permission from their overlords? Finally, such restrictions would be completely moot, as you have no ability to effectively enforce such measures. You may be able to intern a small number of those who found to be in possession of property they have every inalienable right to have, but overwhelmingly number of law-abiding citizens and criminals alike will have no problem manufacturing these simple and untraceable mechanisms or simply buying and trading the billions of parts already in circulation. Is that like a subtle, like, jab, like a threat on the down low? Is that what the kids would say? I like that one. I mean, it is wordy. This guy went to school for the words or something, but it's all right. Kind of long, but it's a good one. It's on our side. Have not seen one yet, knocking on wood. Not one pro infringement one yet. All right, next one is 8670. Your new rule changes nothing for criminals who do not care and restricts the Second Amendment. You do not have the authority to change rules. That is for Congress. I think that's dead on. I think that's one of the better ones. All right, number 8909. Hi, my name is Spencer. His last name is his business. I am a business owner, and I know countless Americans who have legally participated in the tradition of building firearms from home. I believe these proposed rules would devastate the firearms community and create far more victims and unnecessary criminals than help anyone. Not only is this a clear infringement of the rights of Americans and a violation of the Second Amendment, which clearly states, in Night Strike's voice, shall not be infringed, but it also will affect countless businesses whose livelihood depends on the sales of firearms parts and accessories to law-abiding citizens. This rule needs to be stopped before it causes unnecessary violation of our legal system and, more importantly, the rights of our citizens. Dude, Spencer's the shit right there. That's awesome, right? I am going to take a moment. I'm going to play a commercial because I need to take a drink, and I forgot that I can do this. So I'm going to play a commercial from somewhere that I have a video from. That's kind of nice. Lets me take a little commercial, drink something. You don't have to hear me drink. None of that AMSR business. I could do that. I could just do a whole video where I'm like, and then a whole bunch of weirdos would show up and be creepy. But we're here for 2A, so we don't want a bunch of weird, creepy people. All right, next up is 8984. The proposed definitions in this are vague. Or wait, am I reading that wrong? The proposed definitions in this are vogue. No, I think it's vague. This seems like an attempt to overregulate, turn law-abiding citizens into felons. There doesn't appear to be any evidence or justification for this sort of change other than political motives. By further complicating what constitutes a firearm, many businesses will be destroyed and the right to keep and bear arms will be further infringed upon. Ain't bad. It's like, it's to the point. Hello from Canada, our neighbors to the north. Good evening. Let's see. I think you read mine earlier. Glad it wasn't taken down. I showed stern words, but not sounding like a shithead, I think. Love this channel, okay? So which one was yours? We'll go back and read it again. I think we just read this one. No. I don't think we did read this one. So 8968, I am strongly against this rule change. The legislative branch has defined a firearm in law. This rule goes against what they have defined, making it unconstitutional. The ATF has lost multiple court cases trying to enforce their current definition of a firearm receiver, so trying to expand this definition more broadly is a terrible idea. Not to mention, that it will tie up many products that have nothing to do with the firearms industry in a legal nightmare because their products could be conceivably used to build a firearm. And all of this over something that has no history of being used in criminal activity. This is nothing other than the current administration directly attacking the Second Amendment and law-abiding gun owners. It will not make anyone safer. It's just so liberal politicians can claim a victory against gun owners. I'm down. However, there's going to be people who are going to go, you're not allowed to say liberal politicians because that'll trigger liberal thinkers, and then they will be so triggered that they will not tolerate you. So they're so open-minded and liberal that they won't tolerate you because you use the word liberal to describe something that they may or may not agree on, but they definitely agree that you're not allowed to use their word. So I guess maybe that doesn't happen all the damn time. Next up is 8959. By expanding the definitions of firearm and frame a receiver, the proposed rule will increase the burden of the public to exercise a fundamental right granted by the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. Additionally, I fear the increased burden will move otherwise law-abiding citizens to seek firearms or parts through other avenues, namely criminal enterprises with enough resources to produce firearms versus via 3D printing technology or other means. 2. Producing their own firearms via 3D printing technology. As 3D printing technology increases in prevalence, so the cost of operation will decrease and availability of materials and plans increase. The result would be unregulated, untraceable, potentially unreliable, or even dangerous ghost guns. I have no supporting evidence for my claims due to the unprecedented state of 3D printing technology in combination with the proposed rule, but our nation's history of prohibition of desired articles, alcohol and drugs, proves that such regulation creates a dangerous environment where only criminals thrive. As for the background information given regarding privately made firearms, no distinction is made between 3D printed privately made firearms and kit guns. By the same rationale mentioned above, I would speculate that the use of pre-manufactured or personally made, you have to say made, they're trying to create, I'm commenting in the middle here. So PMF is their stupid ass new garbage word that they're going to try to, just divide with. So right now we have manufacturers because the stupid definitions from 1938 created manufacturers. And in 1968, when they overhauled all the federal laws, they reiterated they doubled down, they leaned into the word manufacturer. And that's how you create something out of nothing, is you manufacture. But now, if you're not licensed and you create something out of nothing, we can't use the same word. So we're going to use the word made. So you have to say privately made firearms instead of privately manufactured, because in government techno speak, manufactured is legitimate and made is what you incompetent, unlicensed sons of bitches make in your homes. So a PMF is a personally made firearm. So if you're making firearms, you're made. But if you're manufacturing firearms, you're manufactured. Anyway, so we'll go back and I'll read this whole sentence over again. As for the background information given regarding privately made firearms, PMFs, I'm going to call them PUFMAs. No definition is made between 3D printed PUFMAs and kit guns. By the same rationale mentioned above, I would speculate that the use of PUFMAs in crime is increasing due to the increase in prevalence of 3D printing technology. Regulating hard-to-assemble kit guns only inconveniences law-abiding citizens because, while unregulated, kit guns are expensive as well as difficult and time-consuming to assemble. I would again speculate that criminals are not generally using kit guns to commit crimes when 3D printed guns or guns available on the black market are much more readily available and cost-effective. Enforcement of digital plans and 3D printing resources that may be used for anything other than firearms is infeasible. Plans can be regulated, but it will be undetectable when transferred due to encryption and file transfer media. 3D printers cannot be regulated in themselves because they are used for many things other than firearms. In the age of convenience, Americans need, as streamlined as possible, a process to get firearms and parts from trusted manufacturers who are held to quality standards, as is our right. Implementing the proposed rule would only further inconvenience law-abiding citizens and inadvertently drive production, sale, and use of potentially dangerous or even illegal firearms or firearms parts. The proposed rule should not be implemented because it would have the opposite effect of what it attempts to achieve, more ghost guns, and would only affect those who intended to follow the law to begin with. Thank you for your consideration. You know, I don't even know what to say. Like, is this this has to be some kind of nerd who did this, so it's good because a nerd did it. But this one is amazing. This is a really good one. It hits a couple of different points that nobody else bothered to hit yet. Really good. So aren't you glad that these nerds are on our side and not on the other side being against us? Because that would suck. All right, so we're going to go back to another Canadian, well, that same Canadian. We either have more than one Canadian or that's the same Canadian. And then we got more ASMR. No, that's for Matt's channel. He does things with his nose. This. That's me picking my nose in Matt style. You mean to tell me that the liberals don't want me to call them by their chosen political pronoun? That was last week, dude. Sorry, that was last week, person. You can keep up with it or you're a hater. I've seen printed guns. They can be as safe as poly as long as you know what you're doing. But if you don't know what you're doing, then they're unsafe. I think it was earlier. I got to find my docket number. I have lots of emails as I do lots of 2A constitutional work. So it's like finding a needle in a haystack. That's the kind of answer you want to hear. Like, oh, I don't even have the receipt from that. Not because I don't have it, but because it's underneath so many other receipts from 2A stuff I do. That's pretty nice. That's the kind of answer you like to hear. I'm on the last one, so this is the last one. Unless we get a lot of comments, there's nobody out there. So is somebody corking me? Am I being corked right now? Or everybody just doesn't like 2A anymore? It's too boring for them. So comments or we're quitting it. That's how it works. Now you're getting an ultimatum. Now you got to do work. All right, this is 89999. I feel that the proposed rule would have virtually no effect on illegal gun violence in the U.S. and would negatively impact several industries of the economy. Retailers like Polymer 80, Deltona Firearms, Freedom Firearms, and Midway USA will be devastated as a huge part of their business in these types of described firearms kits, and this law tends to eliminate or make so unrealistically possible to obtain that no one could feasibly do so. I feel this is another step into slowly eliminating Americans' Second Amendment rights. I believe that ATF 2021 R-05 Federal Register number 2021-10058 will create an undue cost burden to the average American citizen and restrain the manufacturing of firearms both privately and commercially. The rule change is not feasible, nor is it practical. I strenuously oppose 2021 R-05. All right, that was the last one, unless we get some comments, but let's rag on that boilerplate. First, they did fine. They could have just left it like this, but then they put the boilerplate in, I guess, because somebody told them you got to have this port. This is probably the part they want you to have to be official. But this part, strenuously, whatever this word is, it's too unique. So if you're going to make boilerplate, don't make boilerplate with a keyword, right? It's dumb. Don't make it with a keyword that can be sorted and pulled. Every one of your things can be pulled out of this entire database with that one word. Like, be aware of how your shit works. I can't believe somebody would drop this as a boilerplate. I mean, come on, man. You got to understand how they're going to work against you and how they're going to, come on. Let's work on this. So that's it. I'm not getting any other comments. I don't threaten. I just do what I can do. So I do appreciate the $5 from Erstwhile. Why couldn't I think of that? The $5 from Nobody. The $5 from Clover will be in here somewhere. $5 from Clover. And the $10 from Erstwhile also. So altogether, I get that minus the 30%. And that's how much money I made today. I do appreciate it. We do have Free Patch Friday. So if you want to order something from the store, I've got a campaign I'm working on. All I do is 2A. I'm trying to take a lot of that effort and put it into a book. And I'm not going to try to make a million of them, but if you'd like one of the 100 or so books that'll get made, get your ass over there. The thing will run for a month, but all the cheap stuff, all the early bird discounted stuff, is always going to be there for Patreons. So let me go back into the banner, throw this back out there, and put this back out there and say thanks to those Patreons for making it possible for what we're doing. They'll always have an inexpensive copy of the new book available to them, assuming it gets printed. But if you'd like to see it get printed, then what I'll be doing when I shut this off is going back to work on that book for a little while, and then I'll go monitor my eBay auctions. So I do two-way all day, and then I sell the stuff that I used to buy for YouTube videos to pay the bills. So if you want to help me spend more time on two-way, then throw some scratch my way. Other people you could help out would be this dude who has a Patreon. He does chats twice a week and participates in other people's stuff. This dude here is a Second Amendment journalist, I should say investigative journalist, doing all kinds of interesting stuff almost daily if you count all the different platforms for sure. And then this dude won't let me talk about it, but he keeps telling me what he's doing. He's doing some really interesting stuff, not to mention the stuff he is doing publicly, which is marathon sessions following the process of the Texas move this year towards constitutional carry. So thanks to the people that showed up to support this and have supported us. And Kingpin doesn't want any money from you, but he's a good dude, so be aware of that as well. We'll be back to pick you up later.